Welcome to Online Drawing 5, Lesson 4. Today we're going to be working with colorful vegetables like squash or eggplant or pumpkins or anything that you can show volume with, or colorful bottles and bowls, which is what I'm going to be using. We'll be working with white sketch paper and pastel pencils and pastel chunks. And it's good to have a pencil sharpener nearby in case you need to sharpen your pencils. I'm going to choose mainly the colors that are in my still life, which are light green, dark green, light blue, and for the salmon bowl I will use burnt sienna. I'm going to make sure that my erasers are clean because I used them with charcoal last week. Don't want to get black all over my drawing. And so I clean it on white paper like this before class. Same thing with my kneaded eraser. My goal is to get the bottle, which is the tallest thing in my composition, in. And so the size and scale of the bottle is important. Making sure that the side of my bottle is parallel with the side of the paper. And that there's room for both the bowl in the background and the bowl in the foreground. All right, at this stage I'm going to check my ellipses. Of course, I'm making sure that the bottom curve is greater than the upper curve, and this one is greater still. Measuring the sides. And it's a good idea to at least make note of the back of the table. Now remember, when you're using color, you need to remember what the complements are so that when you make your yellow-green dark, you're adding both complements, reddish purple, yellow and purple, red and green. So I'm looking for a reddish purple that's going to make my shadow in the very front of the drawing. Because I'm trying to get it to look dark, I'm going to add this dark green too. There will be a handful of highlights. One will be on the rim. So before I forget that, I'm going to put in my white. So when I try and cover it up again, I'll kind of slide over that area with my drawing tool. Hopefully it will remind me I need some areas to remain white. I'm going to use two blues for the cup. Oh, and it's a deeper opening, so I'm going to put that in. I'll use white for the highlights. I'm adding white before I put down the burnt sienna because I'm trying to get coral, which is the pastel version of burnt sienna. And you can try the burnt sienna, you can try some orange if coral is the color that you're working with. I'm adding white to the top rim of my bowl because it's catching some light. It should be slightly brighter and lighter than the shadow under the rim. Blue is the complement of orange, which makes it what you have to mix together with burnt sienna in order to make it darker. And I'm going to make this bottom part of the bowl a little darker. Now I'm going to include some black in my bottle because it really is so much darker than everything else. But that's going to mean that I have to add some black in some other areas, like down here at the bottom of things. But not before marking out highlights. Now notice I leave some of the white of the paper coming through, so there will be something for the green to grab onto. I have two different greens, so I'm going to try them both. They'll change when you mix them with black, so I don't really know which one is going to work best. And then this is a good time to switch over to a blending stump. You may be able to get a more homogeneous color that way. But first I'm going to add some purple to my yellow ochre up here because I should be getting a darker yellow ochre on the two sides. In my case, the brightest part is here and it gets duller as it goes across. And just a little bit of blue in the background with white mixed in engages a conversation with the color blue and the color coral. There's a relationship between the foreground bowl and the background bottle because they both have a little bit of green in them. And that little bit of blue in the foreground is a complement to the orangey coral bowl in the middle. So why don't you get started and see what you can do. I would recommend 3 objects and ideally some color overlap, either with complementaries or secondaries or primaries, so that there is some way to have the colors talk to each other. So good luck.